goes behind becoming. Sorry, I had to get my mic going. So be patient with me 1 second as we dive into learning some things from the effervescence in this popular area in the sport of boxing that so many people are a fan of. I want you to think about one thing. What exactly happens from the moment that you walk into a boxing gym without any qualifications, maybe except I competed once in my life. How does this look when you're ready to throw on that shirt and that towel and really be responsible for the life of another human being? That's what we're going to cover today. The absolute journey that it'll take for you to become a decorated boxing coach. And when I say decorated, I don't mean world famous. I don't even mean super wealthy with doing this. What you need to realize is what we're going to do here and what we do on this show is bridge the gap from those who know to those who do not know. And so, with that being said, no further ado, it's time to get into what does it look like becoming a boxing coach from day one. And what we're going to do is really give you some of the behind the scenes first and foremost. Um, but for those of you who never watched this show, because we typically do it on our page, and I decided that it's time to really start getting into the place where a lot of the people who are already in the sport actively can coerce with some of the people who are on the way up into that circle. So, with that being said, I have a great bevy of people that I've tagged. And all of these people are currently in the sport of boxing actively. These are the people's names in which you listen to. And you, whenever you hear broadcast, there's a good chance that these people are tied to that broadcast or walking down that aisle. So I felt like it was time that we really give you an opportunity to see it firsthand. And maybe these individuals will take a look at your questions and interact with you at some point in time. But nevertheless, what you're going to get right here today is truly what is behind the scenes and what's gone on over the past century when it comes down to making it down that aisle. And so, thank you for taking the time to tune in. For all of you who are watching, no matter what coast you're on, we appreciate your time. But one thing that we really will start this off with is what are the transitions that happen to get a guy from off the walking through the front door to walk into that ring, and that's kind of where we're going. So the first thing you can expect, and me being a professional in the sport 3 decades now, and having the likes of being under the tutelage of one of the smartest minds in boxing, and from a downline of one of the top or the top championship acquired teacher, not coach, not trainer, but teacher. His lessons just totally captivate the sport of boxing. And just like in basketball, Dean Smith is the basketball Bible. And when it comes down to boxing, this man is the absolute boxing manual. And so having the ability and the opportunity to be under that tenure is such a blessing. And to be surrounded by so many great people that are actually currently doing it. And I don't think you guys get enough credit. That's foremost. And that's what I'm here to do. Make sure that that wave stops and that people really understand the jobs in which you all do, whether you judge, whether you're a coach, whether you're a simple athletic trainer, whether you're the athlete, whether you're with the sanctioning bodies. We all have signed up for very hard jobs. What we do is make sure that people have the connections and the understanding. And what we made sure that we did for our trainers was to make sure that they have order. So for the people who are out there and they're working We came up in a prehistoric age of boxing. Over the 80s and the 90s, it sort of smoothed out a little bit. Early 2000s, a little more sophisticated. Still, we're running into a lot of hurdles that we got to step up and help the people who are in the sport of boxing currently with. And that's exactly what we do. We make sure we bridge the gap, and we also make sure we have something to put into the pan and make it make sense for all of these guys who are struggling to really do this thing the right way. And all of them are. And so, with no further ado, continuing this conversation, I'm going to tell you the first thing that you're going to need to know when it comes down to being in this sport. We are not forgiving. We do not care about your pouting. And when I say that, I say it all with both shoulders up and my chest stuck out, because what I had to do learning this process is it went against everything that I felt like it needed to be. When I came under the tutelage, and my mentor was an Olympic coach and had over 15 world champions. So with that being said, he already knew things I didn't, but it went against my grain. When you walk into that gym, the first thing you better realize is this: you better be a great listener first, because you know absolutely nothing about boxing. Like the great late Roger Mayweather said, you do not know about boxing. And that was the truth. What you think or you know about fighting is that's what you know. When you know it, that's where it actually works. But when you come into the boxing game and you step into that boxing ring, whether it's at the boxing gym or you slipped up and signed a contract to be on a card and you haven't been trained properly, the thing is this, man, you cannot expect to learn boxing because there are rules. There are a lot of different areas that you have no idea will be the process of you becoming a man on an entirely different level. So I'm going to cover several things that you'll need to make sure you have front and center. First, you got to realize this: if you're going to be training, there are a bevy of types of trainers. The first thing you're going to need to know is mentorship is imminent. You have to have mentorship, because what'll happen is you go in there thinking and trying to figure these things out. What's going to be a reality is every single thing that you bring into that gym is going to be wrong. And unfortunately, you're going to learn your lessons using someone else's health meter. And that, my friend, is why we do what we do. I'm not letting that happen on my watch. So, the first thing you best know is that you have to have mentorship. I could care less where you find it, but you have to have somebody who understands this sport greater than you do and has the experience. The next thing I'm going to say that you take under your hat is that you have to now understand that you need to know that there are roles that you have to play first. And apprenticeship is one of them. Once you start to be in that ring, you have to learn to observe what is actually going on with the real coach, and we call him the coach, and how he handles the athletes that are in that facility, because there are a bevy of layers and lines that you're going to need to understand. And at this point in time, I can guarantee you this: you do not know them. So don't pretend that you know, because you have to learn Chinese, because it's an entire dictionary of vocabulary, words, phrases, terms, and layers of muscle memories that you have never experienced before, because there is no sport like boxing. Unlearn what you think you know. And when it comes down to putting athletes inside of the ring. You have to know how to pair these guys. You need to know where these guys are strong. You need to know where these guys are weak. You have guys all the time thinking they know boxing. But the reality is this: only the gods in boxing see these guys coming, and they can tell that they're just going to be uh, backlash coming from what these people are trying to do. You can't impose your own will on this sport. It's been around way before you got here, and it's going to be here way after you leave. And with that being said, so you understand that you need to learn grooming athletes, and that does just not happen. So the process of grooming an athlete is taking them through the course of actions and making sure just because he can do a drill does not mean he has that drill down. So you must learn the focus and the importance of embedding muscle memory to that athlete. Or every time he steps up in levels, whether it's sparring or actual competition, he is going to get schooled. That word means put in a situation that you was ill prepared for. It happens all the time. And this is what we're trying to stop. Because with that being said, this can be fatal. Fatal not meaning um, metaphor. Fatal meaning actually. That is not happening under the right tutelage. Okay, so keep these things in mind. Aspiring trainer, wannabe coach, know your role, slow your roll. This thing takes time. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure that you guys understand this. The only way that you can be a great leader is to be a great follower. So there are people that I've tagged on this post, whether it was the Jeff Mayweathers, the Derek James, the people who are outside of the sport. You want to do something? Go aid people. Stop being the what we call these people out here, social media. You're trying to get your little 2 cents in, and you don't even understand the importance of this sport and the roles that the people play. From the Steve Weisfelds, the guys who actually call and score these fights. Look, man, on a level, I went to do my judge's certification, right? Not licensed, didn't do it for the pros, didn't need to. I understood what they have to understand is on an entirely different level. You don't know anything about judging people. You think you do not. Even for amateur boxing, Jay Nady came to our town and did a clinic. And one of my partners went and did that clinic and ended up being a judge, right? Facts is, when I learned, it opened my eyes to scoring so different and what happens truly in a fight. Hence is why we took liberty after that to take the Team Vietnam and do a workshop with their judges so they could just pretty much have a better insight as to what athletes are thinking opposed to what they're thinking. So that's one of the things that you got to keep front and center. You truly don't know anything about judging, so never focus on judging a fight as far as making it your outcome, because it's so many things, intangibles that you have no idea about. And that is what you got to think about. All right. So, and that's what this whole entire sport is going to be: a bunch of things that you've never been addressed with. And it's a learning thing. That's why you need mentorship. But these guys, they go into gyms with good intentions, and then they throw their towel over their shoulder. And because there are no real coaches there, they're the real coach. It's happening right now. Some gym, they just want to keep the doors open. So some guy walks in and wants to be a coach. This is what's happening. And then that guy starts working with fighters, and fighters can tell when you really know boxing, and they can tell when you don't really know boxing. And so that's what we have to fix now. And that's why this series is going on, really showing from the inside out exactly what you need to know about boxing, and leave the people who are doing it and operating at an optimal level and at the highest of levels, leave them alone, because you don't know anything about their real job. All right. So we're going to pop a couple of questions up here, because my thing is to shed light on this. Yesterday, it was about the importance of athletes and all of you trainers who don't have an LLC, the importance of having an LLC and protecting your brand. There's been a slew of fighters who've gone out here and gotten accusations placed upon them, and they weren't protected in the right way. It's only so much money you could throw at lawyers to protect you from all kinds of accusations when they start coming left field, right field. So you got to have a LLC to protect yourself at all times. And so if you didn't watch that yesterday, go over to Master Boxing's page and you can check that out, because it's good information up there for those of you who are trying to start your businesses the right way and get the proper information. And all we're doing is making sure that you have all of the right tools to move forward. Before I answer the questions up here, and there's some good questions I'm going to answer. I took time and got these questions together from the people who are truly aspiring to note real conversations. So I'm going to make it really clear. What we are here to do is bridge the gap in boxing, so that there's no confusion on what responsibilities reside where. When it comes to the guys who are in the training field, we got you covered. And we made sure over a 15-year period of time, through my understudies being under minds way greater than mine, way more experience, it brought me to that level. And now I can apply what I bring to the table. And what I bring to the table is cohesiveness and order. And that's what we did. So when it comes down to being able to share what we do for the guys who are in the field and they are fighting, or trainers who truly have not had proper mentorship, or if you have, you truly understand, I need some help and I need some order. There's nobody past that, because we were helping out and working in world championship training camps, and there was still no real order. And I knew that that needed to be fixed. We got these guys right here, all different types of skills for those guys when it comes down to educating for the trainers and the real top level guys who do this for real. The businesses, the companies, the organizations. Even Mauricio Suleiman uh, came on, and he wanted to get one of our divisions, because we are a business and company that are loaded with divisions that solve problems. And that's what he wanted. And so what we did for the people who are in the industry, I worked with ESPN for years. Okay, so I'm no new jack to the other side of things. I know how the sport of boxing operates. I know how sports operate. All right. So the key is understanding how to create that roadmap for these guys and put order in their worlds. The fighters that we were working with, these fighters, they didn't have structure. They didn't have order. It was just total chaos. So what we focused on is showing them how to do it. We did workshops. We're doing current workshops right now on how to do it. And why is this important? Because you need to understand that's exactly wasn't what was not buttoned up. And if it's not buttoned up, that means it's going to be someone else's confusion. And so the confusion is what scares everybody. Now we took what we did to the next level, so that the guys who are coaching can build their own selves up and build their own brands, and be enlightened by things like the champions bundles, and learning the true effervescence of this thing. And it's no joke, man. So it's a powerful thing to know where the holes were, but at the same time have the ability and the total skill set to solve these things. So we appreciate you, Michael Allen. Now we're going to get Yeah, we getting the facts, man. We just got to put it down. The reality is nobody's going to do it if you don't do it. Michael Jackson said it starts with the man in the mirror. So, and I know people are listening. I know people are watching and wanting to really do this thing the right way. So, what we're going to do here is go to some of the questions. My man, Lance Curran, how long does it take for someone to truly become a coach? And this is the thing. First, you got to have all of those things in place. You got to have material in which you follow. Once your mentor has shown you through example what it takes, what you got to do, what's important, you need years just to learn that, period. You got to be an understudy. You have to learn, and you have to then start getting little crumbs tossed to you and finding out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and address them. And then the next thing you need to focus on is, now what's my curriculum? Based upon what I've seen these guys do, where is my strength? What's my curriculum? How do I build and develop fighters? The first thing you need to know is what it feels like to be inside of that ring on another level. All right. Because you can't really speak to something if you did not take and get your feet wet. You got to have bruised ribs. You got to feel what all of this stuff feels like. And when some of the guys come from the world of fighting, whether they fought as an amateur or if you fought as a professional fighter, the reality is this: you have a point of reference, but your life has been spent so hard, receiving information, that it's not the same animal when you are the teacher of it. Instructing is an entirely different career, man, and you have to learn that. And it's not in everybody. If that was the case, every former fighter would be a world-class coach, but there are only a couple of them out here. And the reason why is because they had the mental capacity to be able to transfer that over and turn the table around. And that says a lot about their IQ. You got Malik Scott, you got Coach Derek James. There are not a lot of these guys. Buddy McGirt, special shouts out to Buddy McGirt. He came on the show last season and gave us some really good stories and some behind the scenes stories with Gotti that were just things that nobody else knew. Definitely not HBO. He gave that stuff. So if you didn't check that out, take time and check that out. Special shouts out to Buddy. He's doing amazing things in the sport of boxing. So I hope that takes time. So put yourself, it's the 10,000 hour rule, my man Lance. The bottom line is you need at least 10,000 hours in that part, then another 10,000 in practical before you actually become an actual coach. That's the reality at the professional level. All right. So take that to note. Jamal Westling, do trainers manage their fighter's career? That is not the trainer's responsibility. If you are a real coach, you have to coach. When you start spreading yourself around and doing those type things, thinking you can handle that, you'll start to see what you call company catastrophe. Things starting to come across and come loose at the seams. And when that is being said, you will find yourself and your fighter in true harm's way, and the value starts to drop. And everybody knows in the sport of boxing, you got to keep your value because it'll fall fast. Your stock can be worthless in no time. Get a loss and you lose leverage on an entirely different level. So managers manage. We have a great group of people coming up in the management game. Special shouts out to Gwen and her team over there doing it big out west. Reach out. That's why I made sure that these people are going to be tuning in and watching. Let me see. Next, Jonathan Willis. How can a fighter know how to choose a coach? What signs should they look out for? Well, sometimes you want to check out the body of work currently in the gym, because It doesn't matter what they do when you're watching them from afar. It's about watching how they handle people, sitting down and having a conversation, and then having a typical conversation based upon questions that you have, because you have to mesh with this person. And if you do not mesh with this person, you can find yourself in a very uncomfortable future. And so, for that, make sure you interview them after having conversations, because it's irrelevant if you interview them, they say all the right things, but then you can't even have a conversation with them off that tip. So be careful about that, champ. Next thing, my man Kenneth Hilliard says, how much does a trainer make from the fighter? Well, you got people that were like Emmanuel Stewart, who was making 45% from Klitschko. Thing about it is he was actually managing it. He was actually running the show. So he had on several hats. So he got paid and compensated for the things that he did. We have guys right now who are barely getting the 10% that they are owed from their fighters. And when that's being said and that's what's going on, it's a problem. So you got to think about this. Don't allow these things to go on that way. You have to understand the essence of the rule book. All right. And then you have to sit down and understand what exactly are you bringing. What our focus was to get behind the companies that are doing that, the coaches that are doing it, and make sure that we have their back so that they have all of the people that they need surrounding them. So we're an entity behind the entities. We just sort of like BASF. We don't make the product. We just make the product better. That's what our superpower is. And that's what we're bringing to boxing, bridging the gap, bringing order, and making sure that we get behind the powers to push it out, whether it's the ESPNs, when it comes down to promoting fights and being the big name brands, Fight TV. We use our page, which is loaded with 250 plus thousand people that we reach out to with our streams and letting people know about fights. So we know how to make money. When it's pay-per-views, whether it's subscription sales, we deal with the biggest of the large. All right. And that's kind of what it is. We put our place and our talents behind what's necessary in boxing. And so, with that being said, whether it's the coaches, where we could bring order and show them and operate behind them and really make their programs look the part. With the trainers, make sure they have programming, because like I said, we've been in this game for a very long time. And when it's all said and done, making sure that you're bringing what you have brought, which is your wheelhouse, you make sure you bring that and don't come short. And make sure you got your T's crossed, your I's dotted, and your C's hooked in this sport. Next thing. So I hope that answers your question. 10%, and then it doubles according to the responsibilities. But you got to build your team, and that's called team assembly. The last few minutes, the last question, Carrie Ballard. Does your company consult with coaches? That's exactly what we do. We consult with coaches. We consult with trainers, whether you're the athletic trainer or you're a trainer that works with the fighters in the gym. So the coach, when you get them to fight night, be ready to do what he do best, get you the W. So absolutely, we consult. We're advertisement. We do production. We have an absolute wheelhouse in this organization over here. We get behind all of the major companies. So when it comes down to the coaches and stuff, we consult, we guide, we use our experience and practices so they shine. So I hope that makes sense. And for all of those who tune in, appreciate the time. I hope you guys appreciate the little extra that we gave when we come down to being in depth and breaking things down. The fight world is number one on that priority list. And so continue to watch, because tomorrow we'll be going over the key things and tips that coaches and trainers should know to get their fighters in that top echelon, top 25, and even to the top 10. We'll have words from Mauricio Suleiman, president of the WBC, chopping it up on the show. So make sure you tune in. Same time, same bat station. My name is Eric Bradley, and I'm out. We'll see you guys soon in the winner's circle. Peace.